Hey guys, for today's video I want to look at all the SRT models that were released during the 2000s and rank them according to their horsepower output. So for each model we'll talk a little bit about it, their performance, and give some fun facts about each of them. I have done a few different videos focusing on SRT models in the past, like 5 Dodge and Chrysler SRTs that you totally forgot existed, and also a few videos on how rare different SRT models are. So make sure to check those videos out if you're interested, links in the description. I haven't done an SRT video in a while, so I thought I'd bring it back for today. So number 9 on the list is the 2003 Dodge Neon SRT4, with a whopping 215 horsepower and 245 pound-feet of torque. The 03 Neon SRT added a Mitsubishi turbocharger to pressurize the intake manifold of the 2.4-liter 4-cylinder engine that was in the regular Neon, so maximum boost was between 11 and 14 psi, so that bumped the horsepower up by 65 and torque up by 83 pound-feet from that base Neon engine. A 5-speed manual was the only transmission choice. This was a whole lot of car for the 19995 MSRP. To cool the engine, there's a big intercooler visible through the mesh grille, and there's a functional hood scoop and 2 inlets right below the hood to feed more air into the engine bay. There wasn't a ton of customization options. In fact, the 03 model had just one thing you could add, which was side airbags. There were 4 color options: yellow, red, black, and silver. Wheels are 17 by 6 inch with 205/50/17 Michelin Pilot Sport performance tires, and the wheels are actually specifically designed to allow more airflow to the brakes. Moving on to performance, the Neon weighed 2,984 pounds and was able to do 0 to 60 in 5.6 seconds, quarter mile in 14.1 seconds, and had a top speed of 153 miles per hour. Not bad for under 20k. At the time it was sold in 2003, this car was the second fastest stock production car in the entire Chrysler Dodge lineup, behind only the Viper. Number 8 on the list is the 2004 and 2005 Dodge Neon SRT4 with 230 horsepower and 250 pound-feet of torque. So the 04 and 05 Neon SRT bumped up power by 15 horses and 5 pound-feet of torque from the 03 version, and also added a limited slip differential as a standard equipment. The price also went up by $1,000 to $2,995. The new power came from bigger fuel injectors and a recalibrated engine computer, so due to the extra power, there was slightly better performance, so 0 to 60 happens in 5.3 seconds, and the quarter mile was down to 13.9 seconds, so that's around 0.3 of a second faster than the 03. These Neon SRTs came with no muffler stock to give it a throatier exhaust tone, and this means that the car would be illegal straight from the factory in certain states and provinces where mufflers are required on vehicles. Number 7 is the 2008 and 2009 Dodge Caliber SRT4 with 285 horsepower and 265 pound-feet of torque. This was a hatchback that competed with cars like the Volkswagen GTI and Mazda Speed 3. Many people thought that the power was understated for these cars, as some dyno tests found numbers close to what they stated at the wheels, meaning that the crank power was likely much higher. The engine was also a 2.4-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, sometimes called the Warhawk, and the transmission was a 6-speed manual. Along with a 12 psi of boost, there was an air-to-air intercooler, cast aluminum pistons, forged steel connecting rods, a high-flow fuel pump, and more. This meant that the Caliber SRT4 got an extra 113 horsepower and 100 pound-feet of torque from the base. The Caliber SRT4 was basically the replacement for the Neon, which ceased production after 2005, and the price for this was also very reasonable, starting at just $22,995. The Caliber also got a lowered ride, down 1.1 inches in the front and 0.9 inches in the rear. Wheels are 19-inch SRTs with 225/45/19 tires. And the SRT4 also got many exterior upgrades, like a different front fascia, distinctive hood with a performance scoop and vents, bigger wing, and functional diffusers at the back. The Caliber is roughly 3,250 pounds, and performance was very good, able to do 0 to 60 in 5.7 seconds, and the quarter mile in 14.2 seconds. The brakes used on the Dodge Caliber SRT4 came from the Dodge Charger Police Pack. Number 6 on the list is the 2005 and 2006 Chrysler Crossfire SRT6, with 330 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. The Crossfire SRT was available as a coupe for $45,695 or a convertible for $49,995. Unfortunately, there was no manual, just a 5-speed auto. This was the only V6 that SRT has made to date, and the engine was a 3.2-liter supercharged V6 AMG from Mercedes. Again, we see the SRT Crossfire got a massive bump on power from the base models, with an extra 115 horsepower and 81 pound-feet of torque from the regular V6 engine. The SRT6 got a front fascia air dam and fixed rear spoiler. Wheels were staggered, with two 25/40/18 tires up front on 18-inch wheels, and two 55/35/19 tires in the back on 19-inch wheels. The Crossfire weighed 3,220 pounds and also had some really good performance. The car could do 0 to 60 in 5 seconds and the quarter mile in 13.3 seconds. The Crossfire shares 39% of its parts with Mercedes-Benz vehicles. Because the car was made up of so many different parts, all Chrysler dealerships had to invest big bucks to buy special equipment and tools so that they could sell and be able to fix these cars. Number 5 is the 2006 to 2010 Jeep Grand Cherokee WK SRT8 with 420 horsepower and 420 pound-feet of torque. This power came from a 6.1-liter V8 Hemi and was paired with a 5-speed automatic transmission. The price started at just under $40,000 for a base SRT8 in 2006 and rose up to around $50,000 base by 2010, and all-wheel drive came standard. These Grand Cherokees got a drop of 1-inch Bilstein dampers, stiffer springs, larger anti-roll bars, and Brembo brakes. The wheels were staggered with 20x9-inch up front and 20x10-inch at the back, and tires were also staggered as well, 255mm up front and 285 in the rear. The exhaust is mounted in the center, so the exhaust pipes run right out the middle at the back of the truck. The Grand Cherokee was really heavy, coming in at 4,800 pounds, but even with all that weight, it could still do 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds and the quarter mile in 13.2 seconds with a top speed of 155 miles per hour. Even though it's a Jeep, this version wasn't really designed for off-roading. In fact, they took out the off-road gear to improve handling and reduce weight, and also, the ride was so low that the front fascia only has 7 inches of road clearance. Number 4 has 4 cars tied: the Dodge Magnum SRT8 from 2006 to 2008, the Charger SRT8 from 2006 to 2010, the Challenger SRT8 from 2008 to 10, and also the Chrysler 300 SRT8 from 2005 to 2010. They each have 425 horsepower and 420 pound-feet of torque. Again, all these cars have the same 6.1-liter V8 as the Grand Cherokee did, just with an extra 5 horsepower. These 4 SRTs were all built on the LX platform in the same factory and basically had the same body and many of the same features. The Magnum was the first release to start it off. The Challenger had the option of a 6-speed manual, but the other 3 just got a 5-speed auto. The base price was roughly $40,000 to $45,000 for an LX SRT8. Each of these cars got big slotted rotors and red Brembo brake calipers along with 20-inch wheels. The seats have large side bolsters, made of leather, and have the SRT logos embroidered on them. And each of the cars got distinct design pieces to separate them from others, like redesigned fascias, air dams, diffusers, spoilers, and more. These became extremely popular cars that helped to revive Dodge and Chrysler, and other than the Magnum, they are still around today. Performance was in the high 4s and low 5s for 0 to 60, and mid 13 seconds for the quarter mile, as you can see on screen. Between 2005 to 2010, there were 65,763 vehicles sold of these 4 SRT8 models. Number 3 is the famous 2004 to 2006 Dodge Ram SRT10 with 500 horsepower and 525 pound-feet of torque, coming from an 8.3-liter V10 taken from the Viper. There was a quad cab and a regular cab option. Basically, designers used the Dodge Ram frame and heavily modified it, lowering it 1 inch in the front and 2.5 inches in the rear, and adding performance steering, suspension, and aerodynamics. The regular cab had a manual transmission, and the quad cab had an automatic transmission. There are many more features added on the SRT10, such as a deep front fascia, front splitter, rear spoiler, 305 tires on 22-inch Viper wheels, special hood with air intake, a Hurst shifter, massive 15-inch rotors, and a custom dual exhaust system, to name a few. For a base price of $52,710, you got a high-performance V10 that can tow, carry 4 people, and race just about anything on the roads. The truck was capable of 0 to 60 in 5.4 seconds, and the quarter mile in 13.8 seconds, even though it weighed over 5,600 pounds. In 2004, the SRT10 also set a Guinness World Record for being the world's fastest production truck, hitting almost 155 miles per hour. Down to the final two. Number 2 is the 2003 to 2007 Dodge Viper SRT10, also known as the ZB1 or the third generation of the Viper. The SRT10 Roadster, which was a convertible, came out in 2003 and had 500 horsepower and 525 pound-feet of torque, using the same 8.3-liter V10 as the Ram SRT10. And the coupe was released as a 2006 model, and it bumped those numbers up by 10. And the base price way back in 2003 was $73,000. The Roadster got a complete redesign from the past Viper model, with over 100 changes to the chassis, brakes, suspension, tires, engine, transmission, and more. Designers also managed to create 100 pounds of weight saving. Brembo brakes along with 14-inch rotors were used on this Viper. Front wheels were 18 by 10 inches with 275mm tires, and the rear were massive 19 by 13 inches with 335mm wide tires, giving the car a very wide and staggered stance. The coupe variant had some intense performance, making it one of the kings on the road, especially during this time period. 0 to 60 happens in 3.7 seconds, quarter mile in 11.7 seconds, and a top speed of 193 miles per hour. The designer of this Viper, Osamu Shikado, had made 3 different concept car designs before this one: the 98 Chrysler Kronos, the 99 Chrysler Citadel, and the 2000 Viper GTSR, which were all concepts. Finally, at number 1, the fastest SRT vehicle of this decade, coming in at 600 horsepower and 560 pound-feet of torque, was the 2008 to 2010 Dodge Viper, also known as the 4th generation Viper or ZB2. This Viper was actually very similar on the exterior to the previous Viper we discussed, but it had some major performance and interior differences. The engine displacement was increased to 8.4 liters on the V10, and the engine was designed in collaboration with McLaren, adding many improvements. A new 2-piece intake manifold and headers means that the exhaust flows 20% better, and the 6-speed manual was upgraded with speed-sensing limited slip differential for better traction. The whole suspension system was revised for better handling too, and new wheel designs were added, along with a more aggressive hood. For a base price of just $87,000 at the time, this Viper was a performance beast, especially at the track. 0 to 60 happens in 3.5 seconds, quarter mile in 11.6 seconds, and the car could top out at a speed of 202 miles per hour. This Viper could go 0 to 60 and back to 0 in around 12 seconds, thanks to all the power and a fantastic braking system. That's absolutely insane. Well guys, if you're still watching, you've made it to the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed this one, and which SRT is your favorite? Also, let me know if you do want to see a part 2, featuring the most powerful SRTs from this current decade. Thanks for watching, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next video.